We have a little issue. Real estate is no longer the hot asset to buy. And did a popular investor just say you shouldn't even own it? My view is that buying and holding real estate is not an effective investment strategy in our current economic environment. That is Ray Dalio, a well-known billionaire investor and hedge fund manager, telling you that real estate is not the macro play in 2025. Is he going against the American dream of being a renter and not an owner? First reason, real estate is more interest rate sensitive than it is inflation sensitive, so given our current circumstances, it is likely to go down in real terms. Interest rates shot up in the past few years, and all of a sudden the residential real estate price explosion has slowed down. Ray is basically saying the value of your asset is more closely tied to interest rates and not inflation. Mortgage rates reached their low in August 2021 with an average rate of under 3%. This chart is the average sales price across America. Looking at both charts at the same time, you'll see that housing prices began consolidating the second the mortgage rates began increasing. Second reason, it is a fixed asset that is easy to tax, which limits your ability to diversify. I'm surprised he didn't include insurance as part of this. After the storms in Florida and fires in California, many homeowners are struggling to get insurance. Austin, Texas is experiencing a revenue shortfall and will be asking voters to approve of a property tax increase. The increase would be above 3.5%. According to Zillow's market data, rent in Austin has decreased year over year. Here's another source from Austin's KUT News. There's pretty clear downward movement on rental rates. Why does this matter? Because property taxes and insurance are just about guaranteed to go up over time, and you have zero leverage as a homeowner. You will pay them. But as a renter, if average rent is decreasing across the board, you actually have some leverage. And I'm highlighting how costs can go down while renting in some situations, while home ownership does not get cheaper. The flip side of this argument is that when renting, you can experience a massive price surge upward while a homeowner's mortgage is fixed. We'll discuss this later in the video as it's a really important metric to understand and crucial to having a good feel for the current market. Reason 3, real estate is nailed down, so investing in it makes it more difficult to move money from one place to another. Here's a chart of the average length a homeowner stays in their house, generally between 10 and 13 years on average until they sell. Here's a breakdown by city, with a place like Las Vegas only seeing homeowners stay on average around 7 or 8 years. Houses are mostly illiquid, and sellers in 2025 are realizing that trading real estate can take 6 months or longer from list date to selling close date. And mortgages are very much front-loaded with interest, so trading real estate every decade is actually incredibly expensive, which I'll detail in a bit. Is Ray Dalio the best source for deciding whether you should buy or sell? He's a fund manager, so maybe not, but I'm now going to show you an example of an influencer who lost a lot of money buying prime real estate in a prime location where you shouldn't lose money, right? This is Mike Malak, well known for his vlogs on YouTube on a channel with 2.76 million subscribers, and for being the co-host on Impulsive with Logan Paul, one of the most popular podcasts on YouTube. One little problem, Mike found out the hard way what happens when you A, buy real estate at the wrong time, and B, just how expensive it is to sell residential real estate.
Bro, I lost 700,000 on my house.
Wait,
You
what?
sold it?
Yeah.
You lost 700K.
700 G's, yeah.
But real estate is always a great purchase, right? This is Bitcoin's all-time chart. Many people claim crypto and Bitcoin is volatile and risky and dangerous, and you could lose all your money. Yes, Bitcoin is a little more volatile than other assets. Here's Chainlink, one of the top altcoins, also showing a volatile chart. We see volatility on those charts, and if you bought at the wrong time, you could have experienced losses in the short term. Well, guess what happens in every asset class? Here's the chart for Target, a very popular company in America with nearly a $47 billion market cap, and you'd be down about 60% if you bought it at its price peak a couple years ago. My point is that you can be down big in any asset class. There's too many people out there that don't understand that the same can happen in real estate. It just happens in different ways that no one talks about. Until today, where you'll learn from Professor Spencer.
Oh, I didn't realize you took that big of a loss.
Yeah, after realty fees and shit.
Oh my gosh, how do you feel about that?
Losing money is never fun. Losing money in an asset that everyone says only goes up is even worse. Mike's house was located in Studio City, California, a suburb just north of downtown Los Angeles. 4-bed, 3-bath, and just a little over 3,000 square feet. Absolutely beautiful backyard. For those of you wondering why people pay so much to live in California, it's for views like this. And I've heard installing swimming pools is $200,000 minimum in a city like this, so keep that in mind when you see how much he paid for it. Absolutely beautiful front facade in a suburban residential neighborhood. I love the quality, modern finishes, and home feel. But this house really struggled to sell. Let's figure out why. The price history is really interesting. The house sold for just under $3 million in July 2019. That owner listed the house for sale less than 3 years later for $3.795 million. Some of you may remember what was happening in the summers of 2021 and 2022. There was a frenzy to buy real estate because of the super low interest rates. This frenzy led to Mike closing on the house for $4.125 million. A big reason I'm making this video is to highlight just how important it is to buy assets at the right time. The same property, one owner made $1 million in profit. The next buyer lost $700,000. No improvements, no house renovations, no big news about the neighborhood. All that changed was interest rates and the economy weakening.
I went from where I was to a point where I could lose $700,000 and do a podcast about it.
I'm by no means a great investor. I'm still trying to become better. But one thing I absolutely am focused on right now is macroeconomics and trying to understand which asset classes to invest in during certain periods of time, because I was all in on real estate recently.
Then I also look at it from the angle of shit, I had to make $1.5 million just to get that $700K. Like, you know what I'm saying? $700K in Cali is not $700K. I had to make $1.5 million just to get that, to lose it.
This is so important. In case it didn't make sense, he purchased the house using money that was already taxed. He needed to make around $1.5 million at his income level to have around $700,000 after taxes to use as the down payment.
It's been a rough road. And by the way, like nobody, the story and rationale behind the sale is not public yet, and it will be at some point. It's just not the time just yet.
One of the downsides of buying property in a place like Los Angeles is there's so many factors outside of your control that can lead to devaluing of property, or most importantly, devaluing your experience of living there.
It's weird because the fanfare that exists when you buy a house, it ain't there when you sell it.
No,
it's just you, man. It's me with a notary public signing the document. All the furniture is gone. There's some scratches on the floor. The sunset that was there every day when I bought it, it's all clouds now. You know what I'm saying? And you're just. And by the way, like they take all your shit. Now, for me, it's all in storage and I'm just nomadic.
The American dream is so powerful in people's minds, and owning a home is seen as the thing you must do as an adult. I would much prefer to be a homeowner as opposed to a renter. I'm renting right now, but please understand that there are great times to buy and awful times to buy. And when you buy at the wrong time, like in today's market, you are opening yourself up to massive losses. Mike listed the house for sale in February 2024 for $4.2 million, hoping to sell it for $75,000 more than what he paid. Less than 2 months later, they dropped the price by $200,000 and clearly had no interest. A month later, he listed the house for rent for $19,000 a month in what is generally seen as a sign of desperation.
This girl is.
Yeah, but bleep the name. But yes, dude, she is same as yours, I'm sure. So convinced she's my girlfriend. Dude, I had full on 24-hour security in front of my house. She would challenge them. Get out of my way. This is my home. I pay you to fucking be here. And the dude's just like, yo, bitch, get off the patio.
I believe this is a big reason why Mike sold his house, which is really unfortunate because it's not something he could control. His neighborhood was likely full of solid upper middle class people, but it also appears pretty accessible, no real security, and pretty easy in and out for someone wanting to stalk the property or show up unannounced.
If you don't know about what goes on in LA, like if you're going to be a creator or a celebrity or an athlete that lives in like a non-gated neighborhood, you probably need like some pretty heavy security at the house.
One of the downsides of LA being so expensive is a guy like Mike who probably should be in either a condo or house that restricts access to the general public, but the cost of a house to be in an area like that would be triple what he paid. There's nothing wrong with living in a condo when you don't have a family, and in a minute you'll see how much he would have saved had he gone this route. For $2 million in most tier 2 cities, you could have your own gate, a 6,000 square foot house, and live in a guard gated community, but LA seems to draw in entertainers.
Sometimes she would come during the day. She would ring the doorbell. She would tell security to move out of the way because she's time. We have a lunch date and all this stuff, and she has to get ready and blah blah blah. She wants to come in and take a shower to get ready before lunch. Then sometimes she would climb up my absolutely impenetrable back hill that you would need actual
stalker do that too.
Ropes and climbing equipment. Bro, I would.
It's a 60
I would
degree
look
slant.
back at my cameras the next morning because I would see an event happen in the middle of the night. I'd be like, wow, did more foxes come shit on my patio furniture? Nope. A light would go on and you would see this head pop over the wall.
Less than a month after listing for rent, and possibly when that crazy stalker chick was jumping into his backyard, they dropped the price to $3.8 million, another $100,000 drop. Over the remaining year, they tried to drop the rental price and the house price numerous times. On April 18, 2025, they finally closed at a price of $3.685 million, almost $600,000 less than what he paid less than 3 years prior.
This was the least violent interaction I had on that property. I still haven't talked about this.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but when you live in high crime areas like LA and are a public figure, safety has to come first.
Okay.
Bought 4.125. The 1.125 of that, you can check your math now, was the down payment for a jumbo interest only loan, right? At 3.4%.
For how long?
10 years.
10 years.
Using the details he provided, he was paying a little over $8,700 per month in mortgage interest. Since some of you probably think an interest-only loan is retarded, it's not. Principal is kind of irrelevant because you can invest that money elsewhere while you live there, and having 10 years to refinance or sell is plenty of time in LA. A property like that will be worth way more money in a decade than it is today. He was paying around $4,500 a month in just property taxes alone. Insurance in California isn't cheap because you have real concerns with the potential fires, and he's on a hill where his house would be toast if there were a fire in that canyon. So let's add another couple grand just in insurance.
So the monthly flow plus tax on that house was about $20K, if not more, a month, 20 to 25K a month. So it was like times 36 months.
The major problem in today's market is that renting is significantly cheaper than owning, and that's before we talk about the illiquidity of owning property and ridiculously high transaction costs. More on this in a minute.
So the budget just kept going up, up, and up. And I found that house, and I ended up getting into like a bidding war with like, I know Stassi was like bidding on it, and like a bunch of other like creators. It was just this really beautiful like canyons view. And I mean, dude, that's a $3.6 million house. And by the time my realtors were like, you got to come in with a strong offer. Like, we want to go in at 4.125. And I was like, dude, whatever, man. Like, let's do it. And so I get it.
Please understand that a majority of real estate agents are not experts at real estate. They are experts at helping walk you through the purchase of a house. That's it. If they are not excellent investors with multiple decades of investing experience, do not consider them an expert. And please do not join a bidding frenzy based on their recommendations.
And it was, I realized pretty immediately, like, I was like, dude, I'm going to get rinsed on this, dude. I just bought at the height of the market. Things started to correct right after I bought it.
The closing cost when buying this property was likely around $60,000 for title insurance, points to originate the mortgage, fees, inspection, appraisal, and all the fun expenses you realize you have to pay when buying a property. He sold for $3.685 million. The listing agent and buyer's agent are generally going to cost around 5% combined in realtor fees, add another 2% for closing related costs and possible small renovations after inspection. You have transaction costs of around $250,000. And guess who pays that? The seller does, out of their equity. A view like this is incredible, and I'd love to own a house with this backyard, but please pay attention to the next part. The problem with residential real estate is that all of the transaction costs come out of your pocket. When you buy, you are paying around 2% of the loan amount in closing costs. If you have a 5% down payment conventional loan, you're already in the hole 40%. If you put down 20% as the down payment, then you're in the hole around 10% on day one. But here's how it gets worse. When you need to sell the property, you're paying about 7% on the sales price, which comes out of your equity, which means the first 7% of your equity is gone. So if you're following, you'll realize that most real estate purchases means you're underwater for a long time. It may take a decade for the property to appreciate enough for you to break even. Real estate generally goes up over time and is a nice asset to own in high inflationary periods, but if you buy at the wrong time, you will lose 100% of your investment if you have to sell. That is worse than crypto. This is the key point. Because transaction costs are so high, most homeowners will lose money on the purchase of their house unless we have a magical 15-year bull run like we just saw. But guess what? That's likely not going to happen again anytime soon.
So to be in that house for 3 years, almost exactly 3 years, cost me like $1.5 million.
Mike is an extreme example because of how expensive the house was, but trust me, there are tens of thousands of people all across America who will lose 100% of their investment if they had to sell their property today. I recently owned 4 homes in Las Vegas, collectively worth around $2.2 million. I sold them all because a smart investor taught me about market cycles and why we were about to enter the rough phase of the real estate cycle. I think we're in a correction phase and not necessarily a crash. I was tired of dealing with tenants, and I think the days of real estate appreciating like it was are over, and I think there's a huge asset class about to explode where there will be better returns. Understanding market cycles is important to becoming a better investor. Buying real estate from 2012 to 2019 was a cheat code, and all of those homeowners are sitting pretty, while people who purchased in 2022 and recently are mostly underwater. Why is that? Because transaction costs are extremely high on your equity. In a buyer's market like we're in today, you may have to drop price numerous times to find the buyer, or you may have high high concessions in order to close. Your boomer parents will tell you real estate is a great investment because they've seen line go up their entire lives. And yes, it is fine as an investment if, and major if, you hold for 20 years or more. But here's a major problem, and we'll use Mike as an example. He recently started renting a very nice penthouse for around $11,000 per month. Please understand this principle. When the cost of rent is significantly cheaper than the cost to own, please rent, do not buy, and you can actually invest the difference and you'd be way better off over the long term. This is Nick Gurley's post about US real home price history when adjusted for inflation. Being significantly above the trend line is generally not a great time to buy the asset. Monthly supply of new houses has been trending upwards over the past couple years, which is usually during a major recession as indicated by the gray sections. Here's the affordability index as a percentage of median income. Again, not a good time to buy when this is spiking upward. US housing inventory is still not at the levels seen from 2017 to 2019 when the market was a little more healthy, but it's the surge upwards in supply that is alarming. To be clear, I'm not calling for a market crash, and anyone who tries to predict what's happening next with certainty is just guessing. The challenge is figuring out what's signal and what's just noise. Homes are flooding onto the market in Las Vegas as retirees flee the city and investors cash out. Across the United States, newly listed homes increased 6.2% from last June. Las Vegas experienced the sharpest increase in housing inventory with a 77.6% increase year over year. Is this signal or just noise from the media needing stuff to talk about? We don't know until years later, but the alarm bells are ringing.
Some of the numbers are really stunning. Now, nationally, inventory is up 18% from a year ago and has hit the highest level since the start of 2020, pre-pandemic.
The average cost to rent is significantly less than the cost to own before considering maintenance, HOA fees, repairs, and all of the lovely transaction costs to buy or sell. As someone trying to get better as a macro investor, I'm beginning to see the signals of when to exit one asset class and move into others. From every smart investor I've learned from, buying when all the charts say it's a terrible time to buy is generally not a good idea. There are many reasons to own a home that aren't financial, family, location, sense of ownership, no more landlords annoying you, no yearly rental increases, but sometimes a little patience can give you so much more purchasing power just a couple years later. Thanks for watching.